you have to answer no to the question. It's counterintuitive.
All right, so
You don't want to turn the speakers off, which means you really do
I'm
want
just
to
waiting for
turn
him
them
to
off.
finish. All right, and I'm on.
Just test the.
All right.
He's
good evening.
laughing.
We're here this evening, Wednesday, March 8th, for the Committee on Infrastructure. It is now 7 p.m. Would our clerk this evening be so kind as to call the roll?
Alderman David Schonerman. Here. Alderman Sean McGinnis.
I am here.
Alderman Richard Dowd. Present. Alderman Tom Lopez. I am present. And then also with us is Alderman Ben Clemens.
And the chairman.
Oh, and the chair, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Also in attendance, like you said, is Alderman Clemens. Public comment. I see nobody from the public attending this evening, so we will bypass that. Communications. There are none. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Alderman Lopez.
I'd like to make a motion to accept and place on file a communication from Sue Lovering regarding Police Chief Lavoy and communications associated with the Badger Street parking.
Just a part of
Alderman
this,
Dowd.
you have to make a motion to accept the correspondence received after the agenda was prepared.
And,
First.
okay. And to the public, I am doing this for the first time, sorry.
Yes, you're doing a great job.
So I would like to make a motion to accept
All
correspondence.
constructive this evening.
Okay, yeah, this is a learning curve. So I'd like to make a motion to accept all correspondence received after the meeting,
After the agenda was prepared.
after the agenda was initially prepared.
Very good. So the motion by Alderman Lopez is to accept communications after the agenda was prepared. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, and so now we can take these communications and accept them and place them on file.
Okay.
So Alderman Lopez, would you like to do that as well?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to accept the communications emailed by Sue Lovering from Chief Lavoy, from
I believe we
National
have-
Fire,
We
and,
have police, fire, and public works.
yep, with
in
regards to Badger
correspondence.
Street.
Very good. So the first motion by Alderman,
Lopez.
thank you. Alderman Lopez is to accept the communication from Ms. Lovering that was printed by Ms. Lovering. It's actually from Alderman Clemens, and it's the subject is Ordinance 17034, adding Badger Street to the overnight on-street parking program, and that entire correspondence. Discussion?
I would like to thank whoever's going to transcribe this into minutes in advance.
Duly noted. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right. That is accepted and placed on file. We have a second communication. It is from Director Cummings, Director of Economic Development, to myself and the Infrastructure Committee, dated March 2nd, regarding the addition of Badger Street to overnight parking program. Is there any discussion? Okay. To accept and place on file, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And that will be accepted and placed on file. Unfinished business,
There is none.
new business,
There is none.
tabled in committee.
Do we need a motion, or can I make that?
You
I'd like to
may-
make a motion to take from the table R17086.
The motion by Alderman Lopez is to take from the table Resolution 1786. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Very good. And Resolution 1786 is taken from the table. Is there a motion? Alderman Dowd.
Motion for final passage, recommend final passage to the full board of R-17-086.
Alderman Dowd has made the motion to recommend final passage of Resolution 1786, authorizing the release of a certain sewer easement reserved for former Hilton Avenue off of Dane Street. This was assigned to the Board of Public Works. It received a favorable recommendation on February 23rd, and we had tabled it pending a Board of Public Works recommendation on the 8th of February. Discussion? Alderman Shoneman, and then McGinnis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out for the public's record that we did discuss this in depth last time. We had a presentation from an engineer and an architect who was basically bringing this to us through Dan Moriarty, Alderman Moriarty. And we determined that I think it was a reasonable request. This sewer easement is no longer needed. There's no road there. There won't be any sewer built there. The access to all the properties has already been accomplished, and there's no other lots there that would need to be accessed with the sewer line at any time. And so it seemed to me that it would be reasonable to release this easement, and I would be in favor of doing that. So I just want folks at home to understand that although it looks like we're breezing through this, it's because we did it in depth last time, basically waiting on the BPW recommendation, as you pointed out.
Thank you, Alderman Shoneman. Alderman McGinnis?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Alderman Shoneman on what he just said. Just a technical point. The second bullet point is table pending BPW recommendation. Do we get a recommendation, favorable recommendation? Or does that come afterwards?
The first bullet indicates that a favorable recommendation
Yeah,
by
it-
the Board of Public Works was issued on February 23rd.
Just so the public
So,
knows.
yes, we have
It's not
received,
confusing.
we have received that
Fine.
favorable recommendation from the
I-
Board of Public
I
Works.
just want to clarify that for the public.
Excellent point. Thank you, Alderman McGinnis. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we will recommend final passage of Resolution 1786 to the full board. Alderman Lopez.
I'd like to make a motion to take from the table 017034, adding Badger Street to the overnight on-street parking program.
The motion by Alderman Lopez is to take from the table ordinance 1734, adding Badger Street to the overnight on-street parking program. Alderman Dowd.
Make a motion to recommend to the full board final passage of 017-034.
Let's vote on
Oh, sorry.
taking from the
yeah,
table.
we gotta
Take it
take
from
off
the table?
That's all right, and then we'll come right back to you, Alderman Dowd. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'm sorry, Alderman
Just
Lopez.
as a point of order, can we do discussion before taking something off the table?
Yes.
Because maybe we can introduce the feedback that we received from police and fires, just to inform the
can-
next motion.
I'm certainly willing to do that if that's what the committee would like to do. So the motion by Alderman Lopez is to take from the table ordinance 1734. Discussion. Alderman Lopez.
So my understanding is this did receive a favorable recommendation from the police and Board of Public Works, but fire had some concerns about whether it was appropriate to put on-street parking. When I went and canvassed the area, I spoke to the residents in the area, and I initially received very positive feedback, but was subsequently contacted by one of the residents who pointed out that in the part of the street closest to West Hollis particularly, is very narrow, and not only is it very narrow where cars turning onto the street might be problematic, the houses are very close to the street, so they did express some concern about having any spaces assigned specifically to that. So I guess I'm asking if the board is aware of how, if this was approved, how those spaces would be identified and located, and if it's possible to say, maybe put it in the wider part of the street towards the middle or towards the Kinsey Street side.
Great. Excellent point, Alderman Lopez. Let me just share that I would suggest that type of discussion would be more appropriate for the actual discussion about the ordinance, not to take it from the table.
Okay.
But to your point, it may lead to conversation that we have when we actually discuss the actual ordinance.
Just
Alderman Lopez.
for my part, my concern would be if there isn't a way to specifically identify those parking spaces, then it might be more appropriate not to recommend final passage as the following motion if the fire department is opposed to it and there isn't a way to do anything to address concerns they may have.
Again, an excellent point, and that will actually be discussed. So even though we may take this from the ordinance from the table,
Mhm.
and there may be a recommendation for final passage or whatever the motion is, we always have the opportunity to amend that motion. So, and it doesn't have, this ordinance may not be in, staying in this particular state as we discuss it. So it has the
It would leave room
ability
for
to
amendment. I understand.
change and modify. So all your points are well taken, and I believe that all of them will be addressed when we actually take the ordinance from the table to actually discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. You're most welcome. So the motion by Alderman Lopez is to take from the table ordinance 1734. Any additional discussion? Alderman Dowd.
Just for clarification, we had the same issue last night. We had people looking it up in the book. And when you have a motion that, like Tom just made, Alderman Lopez just made, you can discuss the reasons for that motion or not for that motion, but not the content. You have to have a motion on the floor to accept.
Exactly correct. So as we're taking this motion to take it from the table, that's what the discussion should be concentrated about. Any additional discussion? May we take it from the table?
Yes.
All those in
Yes.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Very good. Is there a motion? Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend final passage of O-17-034. And I'd like to speak to it.
Very good. Alderman Dowd, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm going to defer my comments to Alderman Clemmons because I think he has a suggestion for a modification to the motion.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. So we, the committee accepted this evening some communications that I had solicited from the police, the fire department, and the Board of Public Works. In addition to that, the committee received a communication from the Economic Development Department, in addition to those departments. In sum, the police department had no objection to the proposed ordinance as it stands. Neither did the Economic Development Department or the Board of Public Works. The issue came with the fire department and its ladder apparatus. Their concern was, and let me go right to it so that I don't speak out of turn. Okay, this is from Captain Gordon Wilson from the Lake Street Fire Station, and I'm just going to read exactly what they did so that we all understand and the public understands where this is coming from.
So for those in attendance, this is on the backside of page 2 of the
Yes.
correspondence that we received, the first communication. Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. It says, we took ladder 2 to Badger Street today to look at setting up ladder 2 with cars parked in the street. It says, I agree about cars parked on Badger Street. Even with the cars only parked on one side of the street, it complicates ladder placement and setup, adds snowbanks, and we could be quite limited in our ability to set up the ladder up in the best location in the event of a fire. Having cars parked in the street at night will be less than ideal for ladder placement. It says, if you have any questions, please let me know. So that was the actual, they actually took the truck down the street and tried to get the ladder up and you know, see how that would work. Now, right now, the most similar street to Badger Street is Pierce Street, which is parallel to it. It's one way and the opposite direction as of Badger. The fire department consequently also had some concerns about that street as well, where we do allow overnight parking right now. However, I'm not a fan of taking away what is now, but I am concerned and I don't want to create a safety hazard for the residents of that street. I think it's very important that while there may be advantages, you know, to the residents to be able to park there overnight, and there may be, and the police don't have a problem because they can, you know, navigate down the street. I do think it's important that we, listen to the fire department, because not only does Badger Street present, if there was a fire on Badger Street, but if the fire department needed to use Badger Street for whatever reason to get down to another location beyond it, it could lead to a problem. So, with that being said, Alderman Lopez went out, and I don't want to speak to him, but we had a conversation, and Alderman Lopez went out and canvassed some of the street. There was very positive feedback as far as the idea of being able to purchase the on-street parking. And we heard testimony the last time that, that would be a good option, is to at least allow the residents of that street the option to buy the overnight parking passes. So with all that being said, I would, move to make a motion to amend ordinance 17034 and have it state that residents of Badger Street may participate in the overnight on-street parking program. And I would ask that legal come up with the legalese on that and have it prepared by next Tuesday for the full Board of Aldermen meeting. And that would be my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Clemmons. So Alderman Clemmons, just to clarify, you're making an amendment to the legislation, the ordinance, to allow the residents who live on Badger Street the ability to participate in the overnight parking program through purchase of a permit, and then they would have to park on one of the existing stalls in any of the other streets that are available.
Correct.
Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it needs to be a committee member. If it does, we'll
It
sponsor
doesn't.
that.
Alderman Clemmons, as the sponsor or the endorser of this legislation, can make the motions.
That's fine then. I'm good with that.
Any additional discussion? Alderman Shoneman.
Thanks. I think it's a great way to go. This allows residents on various streets, we've done a lot in French Hill, the chance to find a place to park. And these neighborhoods are relatively small, and you don't have to drive blocks and blocks and blocks to find something. It isn't like you live in one neighborhood and you have to go clear to another neighborhood to find a spot to park. It's just around the corner typically. And I think it's a great way to do it. And legal has a list of streets, and so if we proceed in this way, which I think we should, then they'll add Badger Street to the list. And those folks can buy permits and park, as you say, in the existing stalls.
Alderman
idea.
Dowd. And
Yeah,
then Lopez.
The thing that concerned me when I read the fire recommendation was that those houses are pretty close together. They're good size and they're all fairly aged. So if they couldn't get their ladder truck or their tower truck swung to fight the fire, that could be disastrous.
Agreed. Alderman Lopez.
Just wanted to comment that I realize this may be an inconvenience, particularly for residents in that area who might have mobility issues, but they're also the ones who are the most vulnerable in the event of a fire. So I agree entirely that if the fire department is concerned about their ability to respond as effectively as possible, we have a very good fire department. So I trust their word on that, and I would prefer to err on the side of caution and make sure that they can respond to fires effectively. In addition, based on these comments, I think it's probably a good idea for myself and anyone else who's interested to go talk to the residents of Pierce Street, because according to the breakdown that we received in communication, Wilder Street is 28 feet across, whereas Pierce and Badger, I believe, are estimated around 18. So we may want to find out whether the Pierce Street people, knowing that, are comfortable maintaining it. There hasn't been an issue now, I mean, up to this point, but I think it would be up to them as to whether they want to continue to invite that risk, I guess.
Alderman Lopez, I will leave that to you to conduct and research, and then you can come back and let us know. I thought the same thing as Alderman Clemmons was speaking about it, and I understand Alderman Clemmons' point about not taking away something, but honestly, I don't recall the conversation specific to Pierce when we began this pilot, when we began the program as a pilot. And, you know, I know that we had fire provide commentary. I know we had police provide commentary as well. I just don't recall the specific details about Pierce. And to Alderman Lopez's point, both Pierce and Badger are approximately 18 feet in width, and that's two of the narrower streets. So we should be, you know, we should look into it and see if there's anything that we should alter. Alderman Clemmons.
And just to that point, and not to, you know, I mean, I'll help anybody in the city, but Pierce Street is entirely within Ward 4, and that is Alderman Lopez, whereas Badger is split between the two. So I just wanted to make that clear, and I do think that is something that Alderman Lopez should look into
Very
for
good.
that reason.
All right. So the motion by Alderman Clemmons is to amend Ordinance 1734 in title and body to allow the residents who live on Badger Street the ability to purchase a parking permit to participate in the Tree Street overnight parking program. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we will have Corporation Council
Yes.
adjust Ordinance 1734 to reflect that, and we'll have it at the next Board of Aldermen meeting to vote for. Alderman Shoneman.
Thanks. Just want to add a comment to the Pierce Street question. I was just thinking about where those records might be. Certainly on French Hill, any street that was added after, we basically submitted a list, and we said we wanted overnight parking on all these streets. And then police and fire and Public Works came back, and wherever anyone said they didn't like it, we didn't allow parking there. And then that list is maintained in legal. So there might be some record in legal as to what the discussion was on Pierce. And I suppose we should just double check that if they approved it, do they still approve it? And, or did we maybe by mistake paint stalls on Pierce that someone, maybe in the fire department, said that we shouldn't?
Excellent point. So
But those records ought to be there.
while we're sending something back to Corporation Council, let's have them check on Pierce as well. Alderman McGinnis, did you have?
Oh, well, Mr. Chairman, point of order, we don't have to put this back on the table, do we?
No.
We're just waiting for city council to.
We agreed on the
Yeah.
amendment,
I'm
and we just
just
need the
curious
proper
of-
language to,
Yeah, the proper language, which we'll read once council advises, yeah. I think it's a good
Exactly
idea, Alderman Clemmons, it's great.
Thank you.
Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, I think in the motion, we use the Tree Street parking program. I'm going to defer to Alderman Shoneman, but is that the actual title, or because we've added all the streets up in your ward, have we changed the title?
Should we just call it the overnight parking program?
I think just the overnight parking program.
Fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
just for clarification. The other thing is, I could be wrong, but I think that we've added that new ladder truck since this was originally passed.
Yes.
So it may be, that's a pretty good sized piece of equipment.
And where's that ladder truck stationed? Do you know? Is it in, is it 4?
If I could, I think
Alderman
it's
Clement.
at Lake Street.
Lake Street?
Yeah, I would think so. Yep.
All right. All right. So we'll have Corporation Council work on revising or amending Ordinance 1734, and we'll have it for the Board of Aldermen meeting next week. And then we will also have them look into Pierce while they're researching that. Excellent. General discussion. Alderman Dowd.
I don't think we voted on
Oh,
the
have we-
final
Did we not?
Maybe
version.
not.
Well, thank you, clerk.
I'm new.
I thought we voted, but,
No, we
And-
do,
but
but
Voted to amend.
oh,
but
thank
then
you,
not
we
final.
voted to
Yeah,
amend.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
so
yeah.
now we're going to vote for final passage as amended.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we will recommend final passage of ordinance 1734 as amended. Thank you. General discussion. Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, I was very pleased to get, as we all were, I believe, got the email from the treasurer today saying that the city has got a Standard & Poor's AAA rating now on our bonds. That will have a significant decrease in what we have to pay for bonding going forward. He said for many years. So I thought that was excellent news, and it would affect some of our infrastructure not problems, well, maybe problems.
Strategies.
Projects, so I think that just deserve being mentioned.
Thank you, Alderman Dowd. Alderman Clemmons.
I just want to thank the committee for working with me on this, and, you know, particularly Alderman Shoneman for giving me the suggestion to say just maybe the residents could buy the permit. I think that was a great compromise considering what the fire department had to say, and I just appreciate everybody's help on it, so thank you.
You're most welcome. Alderman McGinnis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to concur with Alderman Dowd on that bond rating. That's very, very important to this city, and we've always had high ratings. Makes money cheap for us to borrow if we have to borrow it. So I concur with the alderman.
Thank you.
Inexpensive, maybe not cheap.
Well, it's just nice to get that, you know, it's just nice to hear that.
I would like to thank Alderman Lopez for clerking this evening. It was kind of you to step up and give it a shot and get you in training. So, Alderman Lopez.
I would like to thank the committee and the public for bearing with me as I figured this out. So,
You're great.
All right, wonderful. No need for public comment. Additional remarks by Alderman. I don't see a reason to go into non-public. Is there a motion? Alderman McGinnis.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
The motion by Alderman McGinnis is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are adjourned at 7:27.
Great.